Welcome back to another fantastic episode of I'm Gonna Talk and You're Gonna Listen. Alright, part one. This is the part of the episode where I go, holy crap, I hope nothing ate all my stuff last night. I'm looking around and the trees are pretty, of course the friggin' AC kicks on. Um, Nothing looks any more shredded than last night, or than yesterday. Something ate some of the zucchini. Something ate. Well, the deer came through and tried to eat the cucumbers and tried to eat the tomatoes and tried to eat the freaking cauliflower. Um, the the determinate tomatoes haven't completely annihilated themselves, and the tomatoes have all, or I mean the strawberries have all been nibbled, but don't look too bad. All in all, everything looks okay. Um, we have a lot of tree planting to do still. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have about 10, 12, 13 trees to plant still. Um, but it's too hot. There's like 390 plus degree days, and you might think, that's not hot. That's not hot. Um, but if you're planting baby trees, it is too hot. It's too hot for them. There's a lot of special things you got to do. You really got to soak them if you're going to plant them that hot, and then you got to just water the shit out of them. And it's not in my opinion. And I did almost go to school for this, and I did intern for this and stuff. In my opinion, like if you don't have to impart, unnecessary stress on trees, you just don't do it. And I think earlier this year, for those of you who really, really follow these episodes closely, you'd probably remember me saying that I wasn't sure whether to leave the trees in bags or not. And the guy that I bought them from said leave the trees in the bags. And I was checking with the AI and trying to figure it out. And we kind of ended up doing like 50-50. And I really think it was because the AI thought it was going to be way hotter than it actually was. If you go by what Al Gore is saying, they thought it was going to be super hot out. And it turns out it's not. And by super hot, I mean like breaking triple digits. And I'll talk about the heat really quick. Like 90 is hot, but 90 is not life threatening unless you have, unless you're out in it and just getting fried, baked. Then there's heat related injuries. But like 90 is not 90 by itself is not going to kill you. 90 is survivable. And I get really frustrated. You have to be careful. Like you can't be stupid, but 90 is not going to kill you by itself. But like if you were to watch the news in the city, it's like 90 heat wave, heat alert, cooling centers, and it's just like I still think this is why people get so pissed at climate change and global warming and stuff. Like 90 is very survivable. Now, I will say 90 in the city is not fun because 90 in the city is like getting microwaved from the concrete in the buildings. But especially like in Portland and Seattle, and well, Seattle's always going to be a little cooler anyway. But like in Portland, you just go down to the waterfront and cool down from the what's it called, convection, whatever it is. You just cool down, or you just stay inside and turn the AC on. Now the problem is they don't have enough cops and the park employees are tubbykins. There's a lot of drama there, um, but they could be providing more security for everyone to come down to the beach, the riverfront, and cool down. But um, the only reason I bring up 90 being a concern is because that's too hot to plant the saplings. The other plants, though, like the tomatoes, might actually get ripe. I don't know. The zucchini and the cucumbers are actually growing, even though the cucumbers got nibbled back a lot. Um, and the trees are doing okay. I tried to electrical tape more branches on one of the trees, and it didn't work. We just have some nasty wind gusts that come through here. So anyway, that's kind of the state of things. We've planted several more trees. We're at this rate, when it cools down, me and my amazing wife can do about 2 trees a day. Um, and you might think, oh, you're weak, you're pussies. Um, I'll tell you what, 100% of what it is driving the stakes into the ground. This ground is like compacted cow concrete. Um, I don't know if like how much I shared this out, but I keep fucking up my ankles over and over and over again, and it's because, you know, 10 million years of cows stomping this into just big lumpy messes just fucks your ankles up to no end. Hence why we need a rototiller, but that's going to be like a next year thing. Um, so I can really like process this dirt into something that is not the destroyer of ankles. Um, it's gnarly. Um, so we need a rototiller. Um, but also on top of the rototiller, I need to know where the stupid septic tank lines are, and also the ding dongs that used to live here have buried giant blocks of concrete all over the yard, because they subscribed to that. You need to concrete in things. You need to concrete in things, and I keep finding just giant, like 5-gallon bucket sized blobs of concrete in the ground everywhere. Um, if someone knows how to get those out, leave a comment down below. And I'm sure the answer is you probably need a backhoe. Um, and then I don't know what you do with the giant concrete blobs after that, and you just smash them with a hammer. I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole deal. Um, although I guess if I could drill something into them and like keyhole that off to like a tractor, I could probably just pluck them right out of the ground. I didn't think about that. Um, okay, anyway, so that's part one. I don't know how many of you give a shit about the garden homestead thing, but I know some of you do, and just appreciate talking about the grind. Next thing I'll say, the dog thing, the whole pit bull thing. I know everybody thinks that their pit bull's not the problem, but that's part of the problem. Is that everyone thinks their pit bull's not the problem, and it's like your pit bull is not the problem right now, or maybe your pit bull's not the problem, but there's a lot of others that are, and there is just nothing holding pit bull owners responsible. Um, and yeah, I've ran into pit bulls that are just the most loving, adoring thing on the planet. Um, and I've ran into just standoffish psycho pit bulls, and I don't know how you're supposed to reconcile that once somebody owns one that has been misbred and then misraised, there's no reboot. There's no reboot button there. Um, and maybe that's the same for every dog, but with pits and rots, it's just way exponentially worse. Um, and there's a lot of dogs that can just come back from the worst abuse imaginable and be fine. Um, my buddy had a boxer that had been violently abused. Um, God, and that thing just cuddled up and went to sleep with you. Like it didn't even know you, and it's like, hey, it must be nap time. You're my new buddy, and we're taking a nap now. She was just a wonderful dog. Um, and so I don't understand it. There's a lot I don't understand about it. Oh, so I talked to a gal that I would consider an expert in all things dog violence related. Um, not only has she been bit by her own dog, but I think she's been bit by other dogs. I think her dog has bit other dogs, and I think other dogs have bit her dog. And this is, and that might all sound horrible and barbaric, but this is also kind of like the life of dog owners that walk their dogs in dog parks and stuff. Like getting bit by dogs, and you're like dog problem, dog drama is like something that's going to happen. Like in my opinion, it's a part of conflict resolution. And so I asked her, I said, what are you supposed to do if a dog bites you? And the owner's there and stuff. And obviously you're not dying. And I'm going to paraphrase what she said, but and it was like one of those like aha moments, like no shit. But I had never thought of it this way. I'm paraphrasing. She said basically to treat it like a car accident, a car wreck, not an accident, a car wreck, where you're exchanging information. Step one, make sure everyone's okay. Step two, separate the dog. Separate the dogs. Like, make sure everyone's okay. Exchange information, and then if everyone has health insurance, the health insurance is probably going to pay for it. But then the other person should be paying the co-pays. That would be like the polite thing to do. Um, make sure the dog's had all its shots because the doctor's going to ask. And she said 100% of the time when you get bit, the doctor is just going to ask you a bunch of questions, and so you got to be prepared to answer those questions. I thought that was really interesting. It's one of those things that was like kind of obvious, but sometimes things that are really obvious to me are the hardest things in the world for me to figure out. Sometimes I look for like really complicated shit and don't. Anyway, blah blah blah. The point is, I thought that was really interesting, and but obviously like there's a range there because I've been bit several times, um, but it's usually a dog. So it's usually my ankles getting bit, which I don't like because my ankles are getting more tender by the day as I keep spraining them. As I said, the aforementioned yard that I walk through. Um, she said that was a herding mechanism. The dog was trying to like herd me away because its herd instincts kicked in and it saw an ankle and wanted to bite the ankle. Um, and so I thought that was interesting. So I guess that kind of has like a whole new mentality of the whole word like ankle biter. Um, they want to nip you because that's how they get you to go away. They get you. They're letting you know that they want you to go away. You're going away, and they want you to go away faster, apparently. like they're reinforcing the you going away thing by nipping. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting, and that makes sense because the one that got me recently was a Australian cattle dog, and those things are just mongrels. I love them. I love them to death, but they are just little monsters. And so it makes sense. She said actually that like leaving was like the right thing to do. But she said like we should have exchanged. If I was hurt, we should have exchanged information. Um, so that was interesting. Yeah, exchange information and then get the heck out of there. And I guess that makes sense in more ways than one. You don't want there to be an altercation. And lingering around when shit's popping off is always just the worst thing to do. So yeah, that was interesting. It was a good conversation. She's super smart. Um, and I think in the prepper sphere, we don't talk about dogs nearly enough. Everyone's, oh, you need a dog, you need a dog. But people don't really talk about dogs that much. I mean, it's not like I have a brontosaurus in the backyard, although you wouldn't know by how freaking weird the ground is. But like, a dog is a dog. It's a thing. I know it's family. Dogs aren't really family. I hate to say that. Dogs aren't people. I think it's disgusting to call them fur babies. It seems kind of like cute on the surface, but dogs aren't children. Dogs aren't a replacement for children. Dogs aren't gonna replenish our species when we're all gone. Um, People need to have real children and not treat their animals as children. I think it's unfair. I think it's unfair to dogs to treat, especially since dogs do not behave well when they're spoiled little shits. I don't think it's cute or funny um, or endearing the way people treat dogs. I also don't think that you should just treat them like a work mule because they're not that either. You can have like working dogs without treating them like just absolute mules. Especially since dogs have relatively like extremely short viable lifespans. Dogs just really weren't meant to live that long, most of them. So um, I feel like we don't talk about dogs enough. I also think it's way too emotionally charged. I think dogs. I think cats are too. Like I got into all this because people were saying they were going to eat my cats. You're not eating my fucking cats. I'll tell you that much. My cats will eat you. In the aftermath of you trying to eat my cats. Um, I I think people get really emotionally charged. The reality is, those like dogs. Dogs are like having a gun that can shoot on their own sometimes, and they're not. Most dogs are not very good at figuring things out themselves. You cannot leave them alone for even a third of the time that you can leave a cat alone. Cats will kind of figure things out. Dogs just, you leave them alone for too long, they just start fucking everything up. They go completely feral. You, if you don't believe me, leave the dog alone in your house for 8 hours and watch what happens to your fucking house. This is why so many people have had to give their dogs back. Now, will cats go feral if you leave them alone for too long? I mean, sometimes they go feral if you stop watching them for 2 seconds. But there's also a lot of dogs where if you leave them alone, they'll just go to sleep and wait till you come back. That's cool. Uh, Cats, after they wake up 2 or 3 times and realize you're not coming back, they decide to go fuck with things. But you have way more time usually with a cat than a dog. They're having a gun. It's like having a gun that can just randomly go off, that may or may not key off your leadership, and they don't always really know how to fix things, but they want to fix things, but they don't know how. And it's kind of dogs are kind of like this like symbiotic relationship. You have to know how to act around the dog to get the dog to do what you need it to do when you need it to do it. And I think if you can't do that as a dog owner, your dog should be taken away from you, and you should never be allowed to have one again. If you don't understand how to manage a dog is not a child. A dog is not a baby. A dog is not a human being. A dog is a dog. And people who refuse to grasp that their dog is a dog, and you have to act and behave a certain way to get the dog to do what you want the dog to do when you need the dog to do it, you shouldn't have one. And even though I say a dog is not a kid, people shouldn't have kids that don't know how to get their kid to do what their kid needs to do when they do it either. Counting down doesn't work if there's no situation at the end there that gets the kid to do what you want him to do anyway. When your kid takes all his clothes off and starts running around naked around the store, I'm sorry, your kid just went feral, and you need to go get your kid. You need to physically get off of your fucking phone and go get your kid. Your kid is running around naked around the store like a little banshee. That's what being a parent, that's what being an adult is. Go get your damn kid. It's the same thing when your kid's throwing tantrums. It's the same thing when your kid just starts knocking stuff off shelves and grabbing everything and saying, I want that. Its little neurons are firing. It doesn't really know what it's doing. It doesn't really want that thing. It just thinks it wants that thing because the thing's a bright color and it wants to pick it up. Then it doesn't want to put it down. And then you don't want to deal with your kid crying and throwing a fit and making a scene. Your kid has learned how to control you. Your kid controls you. Stop it. People don't want to talk about kids during Shit Hits the Fan very much either. I'll tell you what. There's two giant astronomical freaking problems when the shit hits the fan. Kids and women. Women are terrible. Terrible when the shit hits the fan. They're little nitpicking monsters that cannot let shit go. Kids are bad because you'll be trying to campfire or barbecue and some shit, and the little kids will be running around and fucking with the propane tank and stuff. I've seen it. Stupid little asshole kids playing on the propane tank. What the fuck, man? This is shit hits the fan. Get your kid off the propane tank. It's not a shit hits the fan. Well, it's gonna be if your kid doesn't get off the propane tank. Like, are you out of your mind? Why are the parents so retarded? Like, get your kid off the... Anyway. It was in the news again, there was some kid that was, I think, playing on a shopping cart, and the guy was trying to, I think, stop the shopping cart from falling over or something. I don't know if he was trying to hold the shopping cart or what he was trying to do, but he ended up getting in a lot of trouble. He ended up getting off. But like, I used to work at a grocery store. I have seen kids get hurt in, on, or around every single thing at the grocery store is usually the shopping carts, but about half the time there used to be these, like, they look like climbing bars, except they were just the little dividers between. Yeah, I saw kids get hurt on those things all the time, playing on them like monkey bars. You'd ask them to stop, the parent would get mad at you. Oh, kids just being kids. Yeah, great, until they friggin' crack their head open. And then you got a huge ass problem. And sure, slips and spills were a part of it, but I watched kids drag shopping carts right on top of themselves, leaning on shopping carts sideways. And those shopping carts, you can pull one back on yourself. You can pull one forward on yourself. It's really, really easy to pull it over sideways on yourself. I've seen kids get hurt in every single way that kids can get hurt. And probably 99.99% of the time, it's because the parent had no control over their kid. I think so much of this stuff is so much prepping stuff is like the fun, cool, haha, sexy, tactical shit to talk about, but like it's all the dumb shit. It's all the dumb shit and shit. It's the fan that gets you fucked up. It's leaving your gate open. It's not having tight enough mesh around your plants to where the deer can't stick their beaks through it. You know, it's not having your bird netting set up quite right. You know, your bird netting is too tight, you know, or your bird netting is not. It's the dumbest little shit that gets you fucked up and shit is the fan. It's there's no like real redundancy unless you have 2 or 3 gardens, indoor and outdoor, and 2 or 3 power supply, like, and it takes an army. Like two people is almost like the bare minimum. I think ideally, if you're gonna try to keep a homestead going, you kind of need 3 people. So like my neighbor is like a husband and wife. They're like a team, but I think what the guy does is I think he kind of like employs his sister, which is really cool. I think just from the fact that there's no way to make money these days, and so that I think that keeps things pretty legit. And so they're like a 3-person team, and they also have a lot of extended family that can help with everything. Doing a homestead with 2 people is extremely stressful. Yeah, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So like if one person like sprains, like me, I sprained my ankle, that puts just everything on my wife. And if any 2-person work needed to be done, it's just not getting done. And planting and securing trees is absolutely a 2-person job. If you try to get a tree in the ground by yourself, there's a really good chance you're gonna break the roots, and you need those roots intact. It's a 2-person job. A lot of this stuff is a 2-person job, and so one person can sustain it, but you need 2 people to improve. Or if the one person tries to improve more than just teeny tiny iterations, they're going to burn themselves out. Like I built the tomato box, and I did a pretty good job, and I did that by myself. 2 people would have been better, because moving that thing by myself, I kind of had to overbuild it to risk not breaking it when I tried to move it after I framed it up. But then I promptly forgot to put tomato cages around the determinate tomatoes. I didn't think it was going to be a problem for some stupid reason, and I should have known better. The second my wife just says to do something, I should just do it. And I don't know how I still haven't learned that lesson. I think I thought it was going to be okay, but no, they turned into just giant bush monsters. The determinants did. The indeterminants are doing exactly what they're supposed to. Or like the broccoli, we chopped the one tippity top of the broccoli off, and it ended up making tons of more tiny broccolis, which is rad. But if my wife and I hadn't talked about that, I don't know what I would have done with the broccoli. And doing the netting by myself would just be impossible. Netting is a bitch to work with. It's kind of like trying to move a tarp around, but even worse. So you need to. You're not the whole, like, that's the whole deal with like the lone wolf. You're not lone wolfing anything unless you have infinite supplies and security set up. You're not sitting on the top of a hill with your sniper fantasy. You need 2 to 3 people just to maintain just a basic garden. You can automate it all, but it takes a long time to get the garden to the point to where it can automate itself. So, also, I think I know what was getting in the mousetrap. I think the cat was getting in the mousetrap to look for mice, which I'm totally okay with, and I think is hilarious. Side note: the cat looked very, 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 very satisfied with itself today. It was in the back. There was a cat in the backyard, and it looked very satisfied with itself. So I thought that was funny. It didn't even want cat food, so it must have been happy. It was cleaning and preening and rolling around. It was. So I wonder if it got a mouse last night. Um, there was I had a whole topics and topics and topics full of stuff, but I'm kind of running out of time. Um, so I think there's going to be a part 2 to this. Our economy, the Federal Reserve, the interest rates, the job numbers. We're heading into the fall, and the interest rates could drop. They're probably only going to drop by like a quarter of a point, though, which isn't even going to be enough to move the needle. Vehicles are coming down. That's good. Except nobody can afford one. Houses are coming down, but it doesn't matter because interest rates are up and nobody can afford one. Somebody told me that the other dude, I wanted to just yell at him. Houses are coming down. It doesn't matter. Houses could cost, as long as houses cost outside of your cash range, it doesn't matter with interest rates so high. It's the same thing with cars. Dude, the interest rates on cars is insane. You out of your fucking mind? The unemployment numbers are bad, and they're lying about it. The job postings are just a lie. There's what look like these phenomenal jobs that say, "Oh, you could make 100 a year. We have people making 250 a year." And then you look in their commission jobs, and you're working at a call center, and it's commission only. You're making zero is how much you're making. You're making somebody else rich. And that's only until what drives those jobs dries up. Intel is going under. NVIDIA and AMD are having to pay the government to be able to export their AI chips to China. I don't know how we're going to be the AI leader in the world if we're exporting our AI chips to China. But it doesn't matter because we won't have the energy to run the mega AI centers that they want for another 5 years. I don't think we're going to make it 5 years. I think they're going to keep trying to tax the grid to the limit. And what they're going to do is they're going to keep trying to move peak load around until they just can't move peak load around anymore, which is like when people use the grid the most, which is like in the evenings because they all come home from work and they'll turn their shit on and they try to charge their EV and they try to run the washer and dryer, and everyone wants to fast charge their EV so they can use it the next day. So if they come home late, there's no like trickle charge. There's not enough time to trickle charge their EV if they're driving longer and longer to work every day. And when it's hotter, they use more AC. Their EV uses more power. And then when it's colder, they use more heat in their car, which wears it out more. The battery, like it's EVs are like a direct drain on the worst that are where we need our electricity the most, which is in the extreme heat and the extreme cold, and that's what hurts EVs the most. Anyway, it would be fine if everyone was full remote and then left their EVs plugged into the grid, and then the EVs made a microgrid that backfed like that local area. But we're not there. And the other thing, we're running out of time here, but China has turned into the world's good guy, and we've turned into the world's bad guy. They came after certain ethnicities, and now they're just coming after the whole country, and we're just the world's bad guy. And if they could take over our auto industry somehow, like let's say the tariffs are over and we get a president crackhead decides to let China just freely sell their vehicles here, that'll end the auto industry. We're going to be in real trouble. We're going to be in trouble anyway when the auto industry is fully automated. But in 5 years, there's going to be 1 million two-legged and 1 million four-legged robots running around too. I mean, in 5 years, you are going to see robot dogs in people's houses, and you're going to see robot two-legged humanoid robots in people's houses in 5 years. That's how close we are. Technology is moving at an exponential rate. 2 years ago, you couldn't ask the AI to do shit, and now we have Grok 4 and OpenAI 5 and stuff where they can code entire programs for you in the course of a couple minutes. There's going to be onboard chips that run every single robot. The robots have pretty decent batteries now. And the battery was kind of the last breakthrough for robots. In a couple years, all those new batteries are going to be mass produced. There's going to be robots, two-legged and four-legged robots everywhere. There's going to be automated Uber drivers. If you're an Uber driver, you're not going to have a job. And then we'll be headed right to digital currency. So, like OVP says, keep doing what you're doing. But also, I would say you got to have like 3, 4, 5 gigs planned for like income. If you're on Social Security, like that shit's going to be insolvent. Like you got to figure something out. You got to be, whatever it is that you're good at, you got to be trying to find ways to turn that into side gigs. And you need multiple backup side gigs. And they should be constantly competing with each other to see which one should become your main gig. The kids these days have almost completely given up, and they're just all gambling now. And like it's not even like good crypto. They're gambling in like just shit crypto with no ecosystem behind it, no development behind it, just shit crypto, or crypto that's so far out it's never gonna do anything in time. Um, I think in 5 years the crypto landscape is going to be very different. The next gen cryptos are going to take over for utility, and I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how to pivot to the new cryptos. Um, but I'm almost there. I'm mentally working my way to where like the new decentralized crypto applications are, because I still think there's a world that crypto exists. Before you think crypto is weird, crypto is weird. These people said that about the internet. Okay, like fucking get over it. I'm so sick. AI is weird. Get over it. Like, if you want to stay up with technology in a way to where you're going to be able to maneuver all this, you need to learn how crypto works. You need to learn how LLMs work and how the blockchain works. This is how shit is going to work. Just saying it's weird, this is weird, that's weird, I don't like it, this weird, that's weird, I don't like it. Like, if you think you're going to be alive in 5 years, I don't give a shit if you're retired or not. You need to learn all this. It's just as important as learning how to make the tomatoes do the things. Like, we are going to be inextricably linked to how LLMs and AI and DApps and the blockchain, like how stable coins work, right? How learn this shit now. It's not going anywhere. The internet wasn't going anywhere 30 years ago, 25 years ago, 20 years ago. Okay? AI and crypto aren't going anywhere. What if we get EMP'd? We're not going to get fucking EMP'd. It would take like 5 to 6 of the biggest air bursts to EMP us. The grid is going to go down. Like, they don't need that. And then you're still going to have Starlink and shit. Like, you're still going to need to know all this. You're still going to have shit running locally. There's so much value. I know the AI kind of sucks right now, but there's so much value in it in terms of like aggregating large amounts of data. If you were plugging all your crops into a database, you could use AI to like aggregate and maximize your crops and stuff, like, and dig through the almanac and figure out what the weather is going to do and stuff. Like, they're just tools. People need to stop being such fucking spazzes about it. The AI is going to take over. The government is 10 years ahead of us. And no, they're not. They can't. The government can't even fix a road. Okay? They're not 10 years ahead on the AI. They can't even fix a road. They can't fix the homeless problem. They can't. No, just stop it. The DOD and all of them, they're going out for contracts for Grok and Palantir right now. They're not 10 years ahead. They're 10 years behind. You need to learn what you need to learn and how to learn it, so you can try to stay caught up. So you're not left behind. Because in 5 years from now, you're gonna be like, oh, I wish someone would have told me there would have been robot dogs walking around. I would have got a robot dog, or I would have got robot dog stock. Okay, so just anyway, I gotta go. We'll see if there's a part 2 if I can think of what the rest of my topics were.
Alright, welcome back to part 2. There's a little change in the audio. I'm inside. It got too hot. Too hot out there. I don't know exactly where I was. I think I was trying to transition to the next topics that I couldn't remember what they were. So I remember now loosely, it's kind of divided 50-50 between church security, which half-ass has been jumping into, and I know I've been talking to others about it too. So if you haven't checked out Half-Ass Freddy's yet, he had a 2-parter. The thing that jumped out at me the most was they said 75% of the attacks happen outside the church, and that lines up with what I've been seeing too. What kicked all this off was an execution that happened outside a church north of here, and so yeah, I mean that lines up with it. People are gonna engage in the parking lot and then try to move their way in if that's their plan. I've been kind of on the fence of how much I want to say about it. Usually if you try to have, like, you know, counter tactics discussions, people who are mushrooms are gonna say, you're giving the bad guys ideas, you're making the bad guys smarter. And the reality is, when bad guys want to do bad things, their tactics, means, methods, and modes are already made up. If they're looking to do mass casualties, they're gonna look that up and they're gonna figure that out. There's gonna be very few things that they haven't thought of. Most of them are gonna. I'm just gonna close my eyes and talk with my eyes closed. Most bad guys are gonna take the most direct path possible. They're not gonna set up anything super elaborate, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't gonna set up a two-stage plan, which I don't think that's out of the realm. So what a two-stage plan looks like would be having an initial distraction and then funneling everybody into the no-no zone. So what that would look like is someone sneaking in a backpack, setting off smoke during the event, and funneling everybody outside into the no-no area. Just because that hasn't happened yet in a church doesn't mean it's not going to happen. The no-no people do things like that at venues all the time. They do the smoke in the building, or the stink bombs, or they just pull a fire alarm and then everybody goes outside and then they get ambushed. That happens a lot at bars and small concerts. And if a lot of this seems crazy to you, I've ran security details before. I'm more comfortable being the external security element. That's just what that's just where my comfort zone is, and there's other people that are a lot better at being internal security elements. So what the external security element does is they make sure that the no-no people don't have unchallenged access into the parking lot. It also means you have to figure out where their most likely area of parking is, so you can get eyes on that. Then you can see them coming. Sometimes that's a challenge if the building that you're trying to defend doesn't have high enough optics, but that could mean having some kind of an LPOP, listening post, observation post. So what that might look like, if the building that you're trying to defend is off a freeway, having somebody with eyes on the off like kind of like the point of no return to your building, keeping an eye out for anything suspicious. I know that seems crazy, but we may be getting to situations where that's likely. Or if there's a parking lot somewhere and you know the bad guys have been scoping that parking lot, that's probably one of where they want to park their vehicles, and that's parking lot. You got to have eyes on that parking lot. Your goal is to try to stop them, or at least identify them as absolutely fast as possible where they're staging. That's going to be their fallback area. That could be where they have their own QRTs, their own response. It depends on how concerted of an effort it is. You can't always assume that it's going to be a lone no person. It could be an entire group of no people, and they don't always send everybody. Usually they have people watching their vehicles too. And so the external security force, security detail, security unit is to let the internal unit know what's going on and hopefully not disrupt them or pull them out of position. No matter what happens outside, their job is to hold the inside, even if that means the outside getting screwed. That could mean that the outside folds in, but the inside is usually not going to expand out to help the external team. And the people doing internal are also trying to keep the internal people inside so they don't flood out to try to quote unquote help or see what's crack-a-lacking. The external team needs to be very, 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 very strong. They need to know exactly what they're doing. They need to have great leaders. Like Myrmidon said, like the time for a democracy is over. But usually you have an external lead and an internal lead. And then you have somebody in the middle on both comms. This is where Orange Man's security detail screwed up on the fateful day. They didn't have somebody managing inner unit comms very well. That is like a classic failure on every level, and people just being extremely the security detail being extremely lazy. I listened to a thing last night and they were making fun of how inept security was and how inept everybody was on all sides, including the no guy. They were all inept, and there was a lot of failures, except for I think the sniper, the counter snipers who did their best. They were just in shit positions, and they didn't have, they had scopes for much longer ranges, and everyone's areas of responsibility was effed up. And it's easy for, idiots to go, that's not how I would have done it, that's not how I would have done it. But like, until you've pulled internal external security and had to have like different sectors of responsibility and different cross-functional teams, and I hate to say, like, you just don't know what it's like, so you don't get an opinion. That's there's several valid opinions, like, why weren't they on the most obvious roof on the planet? Why were they under the roof? Why was there nobody at the water tower? Most people are familiar with that, so that's an example I'm going to use. Those are all valid. What's not valid is blaming the counter sniper teams, one of which had trees in the way and the other didn't have a very good line of sight. That tree should have been trimmed back. There should have been somebody on the water tower. There should have been someone on the roof. There shouldn't have been people under the roof. That building should have been secure up and down. Anyway, and then above all those other failures, the failure that maybe not everyone's as familiar with is how No Guy was running around with his laser rangefinder. They should have been on him like flies on shit. The second they saw him with a laser rangefinder, they should have been up his ass, and he should have been in the back of a car at least until the end of that thing. The fact that that one teeny tiny thing would have completely changed the trajectory of that day, and it probably would have potentially dramatically changed the trajectory of the election, because he wouldn't have had that moment if they had just stopped the No Guy. And then if there hadn't have been tons of layers of fences between the good guys and the No Guy. And so I just bring that one up because everyone's familiar with that one. And that's kind of the shitty thing is, though, is that's kind of like the average day running security. Myrmidon brought this up on Half-Ass's show. Like, security means like showing up early. Security means doing your rounds and figuring out all the ingresses and egresses and figuring out how you're going to be able to move your security elements around if they have to get somewhere. And when you have somebody responsible for near the tighter end of security, and then you have people responsible for long distance security, and for churches that could just mean people monitoring chatter online. Usually when people want to do no stuff, they still like to tell everybody for some reason. I guess that's a blessing that they'll say that they're going to do the no things on their social media. So sometimes you can catch them, especially if you have a known person that's being crabby. Usually where security fails is that medium part. Your tight end people do really good, but your tight end people aren't. Your inner layer is usually your strongest layer, but they get complacent because they expect the medium layer and the outer layer to do their job, and usually the outer layer is doing a banger job, and so getting your outer layer to help out with your middle layer is very hard. They have to really pivot, because they're designed for that far out contact, and your inner folks usually don't have the right tools to deal with something even medium range. The Secret Service wasn't running around with like PDWs and RMRs, for example, so they couldn't have engaged that person with their Glock 17s or whatever. There wasn't all the people with intermediate rifles were like in that damn building, which caused the Secret Service to not want to lob their giant 300 Win Mag rounds or whatever it was they had, 338 Lapuas or whatever. They don't want to be just lobbing giant rounds into a building full of friendlies. And this is going to be your issue with your outside perimeter security. You could potentially have bad guys, and a lot of these churches, they have commercial buildings all around them. They have residential buildings around them. If it's on a Sunday, there might not be a lot of people working, but there could be a lot of residential, and there could be little businesses going around them, and you can't just start getting into a rolling gun battle outside a church with the no people. No, that's not going to stop them from doing it. Hopefully the church is made out of brick or something, and they can't have that direct access. But I was talking to some people. There's a lot of people like the inside of the church is just glass. Some churches are built just like absolute fortresses. and some churches are just built to look pretty and be inviting and be places of worship. You know, they're not built like a bank, or like how they're building some of the newer schools, where they're built with large amounts of defense in mind. My high school had what appeared to be glass doors. I wouldn't have said that they were bulletproof, but you could smash on those things all day long, and it bonk, 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 bonk. Basically shatterproof without a bulldozer. And some churches are made that way, just like in the city, some buildings are made that way, and some buildings aren't made that way. A lot more are, but a lot of these buildings just have big, beautiful, crystal clear glass windows. And that's great, and that's pretty, and that's nice, and that lets light in, but no bueno for security. And so, the inner layer of security either needs to have boards with kind of handles that they can pull up, or really big blinds or blast walls or something. I know this sounds insane, but a certain what I can loosely describe as Christian adjacent folks down the street that just built their new church. I haven't gone inside, but it looks amazing, and it makes me wonder how many security upgrades they put in that place. Even though their disposition is to run for their lives, and instead of fight, because I guess that's whatever. But if you're looking into church renovations, security needs to be baked in. That means bollards around the building too, so people can't drive into it. Or really big concrete, decorative flower boxes that can be used as cover, for people to take shelter from the parking lot. Your parking lot needs to have, cover and concealment available, both for your protectors and for everybody else if there's going to be ambushes in the parking lot. And I think I'll kind of leave it at that for church security now, because my vast experience relating to security has been parking lots. I've done tons and tons and tons and tons of parking lot security. I feel it sounds so stupid. I feel safer in a parking lot than I do in a building. Even though the propensity to get ambushed in a parking lot is insane. And homeless think that they own the damn parking lots for some reason sometimes. I find a strange amount of comfort in being surrounded by just tons of big metal vehicles. Knowing that I can get behind engines, knowing that I can get behind, the tires, knowing that I can stash things in a million places if I need to. A parking lot can become a tomb, but it's also like, if you know how to run a parking lot, it can be one of the safest places. I mean, 2 people can hold off a lot of people in a parking lot. And realistically, cover and movement, being able to like J-hook people around cars and stuff, being able to see people running, you know, looking under the car and seeing them move if they're trying to flank you. Most of that, in a manner of speaking, isn't always necessarily as important, because all you have to do every second is going to feel like an hour, but you just have to wait. You have to hold out for the cops to get there, is really what you're doing. And if you know, if you've got big concrete and dirt planter boxes, and everybody is behind you, that are, you know, the flock you're supposed to be protecting, and, you know, you're on the radio and you're like, hey, somebody open the west emergency door, you know, bang 3 times, and then open it, and then, you know, your flock can fold in, they can shut that door, they can duck under whatever they got to duck under, and now you and your buddy just sit there and wait for the cops. And then, you know, the people on the inside talk to the cops and say, we got 2 guys outside, hold them off, don't shoot them, but, you know, there's going to be 4 people of a certain ethnicity, you know, and you get their pictures on the security camera, send it to dispatch that sends it to the cops. They know what they're looking for, the silver minivan or whatever. That way they don't engage your security team. And then when, you know, the silver van's going to hear the sirens, the silver van's going to take off. And then you put your pistols away so you don't get zip-zooped by the blue boys. And then, you know, the silver van took off, northbound, southbound, whatever. And then you fold your security team in, and you just wait. You lock down and you wait. Until those people are long gone, until, you know, 911 gives you the all clear. I know that's kind of a tall order, but if you can pull that off, and if your church has a lot of medical, which is something Myrmidon was talking about also, they can have medical inside. They can be doing mass triage inside, or triage for mass casualty. There's going to be people in shock. There might even be people having heart attacks because it's just too much, and Elmer's freaking out, and Margaret and Martha everyone's all freaking out. So, you know, get everyone a bottle of water. Even if it's hot as balls, you're probably going to have to bust out a bunch of Mylar blankets and chill everybody out. And I don't think you want your security team doing medical unless it's like a last resort. You should have medical people that aren't on your security detail. That's my opinion. I mean, the entire security detail should also know medical, and they should all have IFACs and stuff. But you need to have, for mass casualty events, you need to have bags and bags, duffel bags full of medical equipment, not some cutesy little metal tin box. You need duffel bags full of gauze, okay? And all the other stop the bleed stuff. You need tons of tourniquets, real good, decent tourniquets, not those Chinese crap tourniquets. Really good tourniquets. And you need to know how to put them on high and tight. Chest seals and stuff. You're probably not going to be doing Dean Comp needles because the AMR or ambulance is going to be there in time, but you might need to start throwing chest seals on people. You might need a lot of gauze to stuff their armpits. I'm forgetting the name of that wound really quick, but like armpit wounds are like really, really, really bad. Stuffing those is a bitch. Training for Stop the Bleed is very different than training for mass casualty. Stop the Bleed class tells you how to pack and wrap one person. Mass casualty events teach you how to triage having to pack and wrap like 30 people. And so you have to have somebody, hopefully your pastor, who has trained in ICS enough, which is incident command, to be able to rally your troops of the people who aren't hurt, starting to give them instructions to take care of who is hurt. Because people are going to need things to do so they don't freak out. There's always going to be people that want to help, and there's going to be people that just like freak out. And you have to make sure that people freaking out don't go outside, don't hurt themselves, don't hurt anybody. The people that want to help, you got to give them stuff to do. And so you're going to have greens, yellows, reds, and blacks. Black tags means they don't make it. Red tag means they're on their way to black if you don't take care of them really fast. The yellow tags, you might just need to like wrap them up really quick. And then they can help your green tags try to take care of your red tags. You got to get the black tags moved away, or they're going to demoralize the shit out of everybody else. You're going to have people trying to give CPR when there's no point. I'm sorry, people hate this. Even if you do CPR perfectly, it only works like 10% of the time. If a loved one wants to do CPR to a dead body, just let them. If someone's refusing help, but you know they're a red tag about to turn a black tag, take care of somebody else until they pass out, and then start administering aid. I know that sounds weird, but go save people who want to be saved and wait for those people to pass out, especially if they're just in freak out, flight or fight, or PTSD mode. And then there you go. Wait for AMR. Wait for the ambulance, and then they're going to let the hospitals know. The hospitals are going to start expecting mass casualties. And la-di-da. I wouldn't start driving to the people to the hospital myself unless A, it was super close. Or B, like the bad guys are at large and AMR or ambulance won't come because they're saying it's not secured. And then start driving people. But you want to have people driving injured that aren't going batshit crazy. Which unfortunately means some of your calmer people may be doing the driving, but you may need some of your calmer people to handle the mass casualty event. So that's tough. And then you still need someone to call the hospital and say, start expecting mass casualties because XYZ happened. And you don't want to bring your people out to the parking lot and start loading them into the same color van that the cops are looking for. And also, hospitals report all gunshots. So if the bad guys end up at the hospital, that can be extremely problematic too. So those are kind of the two stages I would think about. I know that's a lot. Meow meow. And Ringo would like to say that emotional support animals are very, very useful. So there you go. That's my, I guess that's my security blurb in a nutshell, as concise as I could be, without giving too much away for the no people. I go into way more detail when I'm helping churches prep for this stuff, but I do keep a lot of it offline just because there's a lot of sneaky, nasty things that the bad guys can do, and I think like what I said on half-ass readies is like, and I think Myrmidon said it too. Get people there early, check for bags, check the doors, make sure the doors stay locked, keep eyes on the doors. If you can, the more cameras, the better. Having your cameras by the soundboards. If you can have a couple people on the soundboards, and having really good radio discipline, which is already hard enough, especially with people with jammers and stuff these days. Maintaining radio discipline is a whole deal. I don't know how much anyone cares about that, though. I mean, not that people don't care, but a lot of that's like a bridge too far. Meow. Just radios these days. I would have a no comms plan. Probably certain sequences banging on the door or something. Like let's say the power gets cut and the radios get jammed. Having like pounding a certain rhythm on the door, or a challenge and password at the doors or something, as like a final resort. Okay, so I'm gonna pause there and look up a couple things for my next topic. All right, part whatever, I don't know, part whatever of this podcast episode thing you do. First, I want to start by saying the crime rates in the United States are ludicrously underreported. It is mostly in part to people getting sick and tired of nothing happening. So they'll say something like shoplifting is way down. I couldn't think of the right word. Shoplifting is way down. Well, shoplifting's not way down. People will just stop reporting it. Vehicle thefts. If I can't remember who I was talking to, but their vehicle got stolen. They tried to report it. Like, good luck. Good luck with that. And violent crimes. Getting the police to even take a statement is a challenge. Let alone pressing charges in the big cities specifically. And so I want to talk about DC, and then I want to talk about the blue cities a little bit. So Michael Pulliam, this is according to Grok, but because I couldn't find. Hold on, does Grok actually? If you Bing search or Google search the DC crime rate, the Huff Post is the first post that comes up, which is insane to me. And it says, convicted felon Trump lies about crime rate in DC, deploys troops. That is, when I say DC lying about crime rate, the very first thing that pops up is HuffPost calling Trump a felon and saying he's lying about the crime rate. But if you go ask Grok, I guess Grok has got its head out of its ass for once. It immediately knew what I was talking about. A DC police commander, Michael Pulliam, was suspended in May 2025 for allegedly manipulating crime statistics to show lower violent crime rates. The police union claims this is part of a broader trend of misclassifying offenses to downplay crime. Here we go. NBCWashington.com. And this is common amongst all the major cities, and there's a lot of reasons for it. The big one is they don't want to make the doom loop any worse than it already is. They don't want to make the doom loop worse. They don't want to scare more people away faster. They're trying to keep the crime the crime hiding, and I think they're just trying to, every year they just try to ride the summer out. So they act like, you know, the no assaults on the gals isn't bad, you know, that people aren't trying to steal kids left and right. And then when it does happen, they hide the ethnicities of the people trying to steal the kids. They hide the ethnicity and gender of the kids themselves. A van pulled up with some older teens and tried to steal some younger teens into the van. They wouldn't release any identifying information of the teens that supposedly did this, and they didn't release any information of the people that it supposedly happened to. And so it's this whole something happened somewhere kind of a thing. Not like, you know, how America's Most Wanted used to be. But boy, you tag a bicyclist and they are on your balls. Mow wow. Come here. Yep, mow wow. Come here. Come closer to the mic if you're going to be on the podcast. Okay? Okay, good. So they're on you like shit on shit. If you tag a bicyclist, you try to steal a kid though, it's crickets. Violent crime. There's like a horde of people that are running around beating people up. They'll have them on camera. You won't see or hear nothing about their ethnicity. No photos, no names, no nothing. Unless there's just no other way they can get around it, or if they're white. They love putting up when the white people do the no stuff. Anybody else though, no name, no face, no video, no nothing. But they're like, but trust us, the cops are looking for him. Trust us, the cops are looking for him. It's like, but I don't think they are. These people are still at large, and you can't tell us what they look like. Nobody's actually safe. And then it just goes away. It goes away because it's kind of like Men in Black, you know, like Gray Man kind of stuff. Like something happened, and then they just give you no details. Then it kind of just goes away in 24 hours. Meanwhile, you know the affected family is going to be terrified forever. You know, they care more about bicyclists than they do their stores or their citizens. Because if bicyclists don't feel safe anymore, then you know that's bad. And where was I going with that? There was a gal. I posted this to my thing. They tacked a phone with a magnet onto her car and then used it as a tracking device to follow her home. And 3 cars pulled up, and they tried to make they tried to make their way in, and they couldn't. And like, well, you know, her brother happened to be a police officer, you know, so she was okay. She lucked out. Well, they don't show the 3 vehicles. They don't show the 2 people that were up against her house, even though she had a Ring doorbell. They're not going to catch those people, and even if they catch them, nothing's going to happen. So people just don't report this stuff anymore, because unless you need to report something to your insurance for some reason, nothing's going to happen. You get a restraining order on them, so what? Like, I live in the middle of nowhere. If people decide to do shit, I'm on my own. Gonna wait like 2 hours for a sheriff to come here and do what? If ICE can't even catch people and stop them, there's just no consequences. And so this whole crime being underreported is massive, but they'll live and die by this false crime data, and they'll use it as a weapon. So Orange Man is federalizing the cops in DC, which is well within his rights to do. 4 years ago, they federalized the police and state. They federalized both for a while there because things were getting so bad. All of that being said, I don't think that's a long-term solution. They need to fully restore the Second Amendment, and they need to be. People need to go back to 100% reporting crime data, no matter how racist it makes everybody look, and go, look, there was 4 people of a certain ethnicity doing this. That just needs to be the first thing. There was 4 people of this ethnicity that did this. Here's their names and pictures. There you go. They wouldn't be so piss scared about vigilantes if they would just do their fucking jobs. Do their jobs. Arrest these people and then keep them in jail. Instead, you know what they do? They arrest them and then they're just no-cost bailed. Over and over. Oh, the jails are full. Oh, jails are for profit. Oh, the prison industrial complex. It's like, oh, okay. What do you want to do then? Like, I agree there's a lot of people in jail that shouldn't be. Okay? And I also agree that jails are hyper radicalize everybody. But let's also not pretend here that, oh, that person's going to have a hard time in jail. That person, oh, they do the no stuff. Like they're gonna have a rough time in jail. They're more protected in jail than they are outside. They're protected outside too. They have private security. The no people that do the no stuff to kids. Make no mistake, those people live in mansions with private security when they get out. They bought one in our state and they didn't tell the people what it was for. And it was for level 3s, level 2s or level 3s with 24-hour private security in a giant mansion. Thanks taxpayers. Things are not working the way they're supposed to work. And jail is not the way to fix that. Jail makes it worse. If you think when people do the no stuff that the horrible no things happen back to them in jail, if you think that's some kind of punishment or justice, and you're okay with that, and you think that that's just fucking funny as shit, and that's your go-to quip all the time, you're gonna have a rough time in jail. Just make that the actual consequence, because telling yourself that is a false sense of any kind of justice. It doesn't happen as often as you think. They're super protected in jail. Okay. That's not what they were sentenced to go do and be there for. Now, if they do the no stuff to the police officers, then they won't last very long. Or if they do no stuff against the city or the state somehow, they'll get fucked up. But no, stuff to kids and stuff, no, they're protected. And when they come back out, they're protected too. The migrant gangs that do the no stuff, nothing happens to them in jail. They're protected. Nothing happens to them when they come back out either. That's why opening up, the asylums and opening up the prisons specifically for gang members in other countries, back to their origin countries. Like, a lot of them are more comfortable in prison than they are outside of prison. So you can do one of three things, I guess. You can leave them here and they're in the open air asylum to where they can just prey on whoever they want. Put them in prison where they're going to be happy campers. Or pull them aside and say, do you actually not want to be a piece of shit? And then have some kind of path towards them being a productive member of society again, wherever it is they're from. Unless they do the no-no stuff to kids, then it's just, eat foot in the chipper. But people need to have an honest discussion about what justice is in society, because the guy that got attacked, Mr. Big Balls, got attacked and just absolutely beaten to a bloody pulp. And they don't show those pictures of what the certain ethnicity did to him. Just beat the living shit out of him. And these places, they have the audacity to say, the way they talk so flippantly about who he is and so-called Department of Government, so-called, like, it's just such condescending bullshit. And DC is an absolute hotbed of crime. Just like LA, just like Portland, just like Seattle, just like Baltimore. I don't know. There's so many now, I can't even ramble them all off anymore. Open air trafficking. There are people being trafficked 24 hours on the streets all day and all night with total impunity of all ages and all the genders. Okay? How do people think that that's okay? Drug use everywhere, and there was somewhere else where they were talking about making pot, or what, starting to make like drugs legalized. Like, I still don't think that legalized pot is a big deal if it's like straight pot, not synthetic. But once people get into the synthetic pots, like, just every drug may as well be on the radar, and you're gonna lose your city. It's the same thing with the the homeless industrial complex, and it's the same thing with the illegal industrial complex. There has to be a massive, massive, massive reckoning, and it doesn't start with it could start with the federalization of the police officers and Homeland Security and the National Guard. But make no mistake, like, people are so, I can already hear it now. Oh, martial law, it's over. Martial law, it's over. It's like, dude, you're already fucked. You just don't know it. The gangs have taken over, so you don't have to call that martial law. I don't know what you can call that, warlords or something. The warlords of Los Angeles and the warlords of DC. Like, it's like a Tom Clancy book, okay? Like, it's like The Division. And you're trading, the National Guard, for warlords. Like, are you really that scared of the National Guard? Like, are you really that scared of, like, federalized local and state police? I can see it being a concern. I can see it being a risk, but You're talking about there's already warlords that you can't do anything about, that you won't do anything about. You already won't do anything about the current lawlessness. And this is the biggest problem I have with all these spineless pieces of shit that they complain about the cops. They complain about the gangs. They complain about their vote not counting. They complain about the war in Ukraine. They complain. They're not going to do a fucking thing. If you're not going to do a fucking thing about it, shut your fucking mouth. Period. Like, that's it. If you're not going to do anything about it, you get what you get. Whoever's going to take over is going to take over. It's going to be TDE, or it's going to be MS-13, or it's going to be, oh, what's his name? Raz from the Chaz. Like, Portland and Seattle are notorious for their warlords. It's bad. Okay? The child gangs are bad. The teenage, the high school, the college, the adult gangs. It's all bad. It's really, really, really bad. If you're not doing... You didn't do anything about it in the 60s. You didn't do anything about it in the 70s, 80s, 90s, the aughts, and the teens, and now here we are again in the 2020s. I was into this. I was into that. You didn't do shit. Okay? You didn't do shit. You're not going to do shit. Don't complain about the fucking National Guard. Okay? You get what you get. And it was the same thing in 2016 through 2020 when the citizens rose up last time. They had no support. Almost no support. People wouldn't openly support them. They saw them as too violent. Well, it was a reaction. You can't say a reaction's too violent or disproportional when people are just getting stomped out and choked out in the streets. Okay, when there's open contracts on people, if something is not immediately done, it is going to be total anarchy. And so I don't think I did a podcast about this last week, but I should have. We're at the point of open contracts for people again. If those contracts aren't dealt with by law enforcement, vigilantes will take those contracts up, and you get what you get. And it is going to be bad. You do not want that. You shouldn't ever let it get to contracts. But once it gets to contracts, which is where we're at, we've been at contracts for a week or so now, law enforcement has to do something extremely dramatic. Once those contracts start getting filled, there's no coming back. And people will fill those contracts. There are people that will do this shit for free because their rationale will be, it's about time. You want to talk about hate speech or free speech or inciting violence. We're past that. There's actual violence now. And the DAs and the court systems have enabled this violence by constantly letting people out. And we are now potentially weeks away from open, massive civil conflict. Because the wrong people are running around free with total impunity. The DAs know who they are. The police know who they are. in a lot of cases, ICE knows who they are, but I think there aren't enough ICE agents and enough ICE and FBI resources to do the things that need to get done. And I know that with fairly good confidence because they haven't come to the I-5 corridor in any semblance of strength yet. This is very much a soft civil conflict right now. You are seeing the last chess pieces being put on the board as the last semblance of any projection of strength. This is the last projection of strength that Orange Man has. He didn't do this he did it a little bit 4 years ago. He didn't do it very much. I think he's realizing now, and I think he's realized with the tariffs too, and now he's realizing this with the National Guard. He waited too long. He should have done this 4 years ago. When J6 happened, that was a result of him not doing what he should have done. And here we are, 5 years later, 4 or 5, however the hell long it's been. And this is what happens. Every time there is an action, things get exponentially worse, and you have to do exponentially more. And it comes off as more radical every time. However, you're not the one being radical. It is a response to radicalism that has continually been ratcheted up. And nice people are going to have to do not nice things to regain equilibrium. This is not incitement of violence. It is simply stating the facts and history of how this happens. And I was some fucking idiot. You always see, well, when's someone gonna do something? Bunch of people on Twitter, and I'm sure a lot of it was Fed posting. When's someone gonna do something? It's like, motherfucker, if you're not doing anything, shut your fucking mouth. Well, I need a group. Why don't you create one then? You're not joining in. Nobody here is just letting some fucking retard running their mouth joining their group. Oh, Ringo sneezing. Bless you, Ringo. He must have got some dust in his nose. Well, the militia needs to be well armed. It's like militias start not armed. Militias start not trained. Freedom, resistance, they often start untrained and unarmed. Groups often start with absolutely nothing. It usually starts as two people walking around a neighborhood going, well, that's not good. And what you're going to have to do in your neighborhood to defend your neighborhood is going to be different than what someone else has to do in their neighborhood to defend their neighborhood. And I think the worst thing that people do is they try to judge other neighborhoods for what that neighborhood had to do. And I think it's the same thing with, it's so easy, it's so convenient for law enforcement to show up the next day and the DA in the news to come, 12 hours later and go, well, that's not good. We found an arm. That happened the other day. They found an arm. They don't know where the fuck the rest of the body is. And they're like, well, that's not, golly gee, why is there just an arm here? That doesn't seem, huh. Oh, the news is like, no, there's an arm. Or a leg, I don't know what it was. And they sit there like, oh, that's weird. Yeah, that's really weird, Tom. There was an arm today. That just doesn't make any sense. But you know, murders are down. Murders are down. We found an arm. I'm not fucking making this shit up. Yeah, let me find it. Also, I'll say really quick, I'm looking for the article. There's been, unless these are all different, and it's kind of hard to tell, there's been like at least 2 or 3 different armed standoffs in the city just in the last couple days. There's also been like multiple DUI crashes. Also, yeah, police asked for help in identifying males who approached juveniles with minivan. Why juveniles? Why don't they say the gender of the juveniles? That's weird. Why don't they say the ethnicities? Why don't they say the ethnicities of the people? Let's see. No description. Yeah. And everyone's like, "Oh, they're white. They're white. They must be white." It's like, no, if they were white, they would have immediately said it. They're not. They're either, you know, they're either the certain ethnicity or they're illegals. But you know, again, cyclists hit, and they are just balls deep in that. Where is it? No. It's already been spammed completely off my feed. I guess finding family day at prison. What? Program gives incarcerated moms a chance to spend day with kids. Oh, okay, I guess. Dealer quantities. Multiple things over the last couple of weeks of them just finding like massive dealer levels of drugs. Man seen waving knife and running into traffic, slashes tires on 3 cars. So a dude was slashing tires like in traffic. Okay, that sounds good. That sounds fucking fantastic. Waterfront art installation brings attention to Gaza starving crisis. Shut up. Where is it? Is it gone? Is it? Wow. This is pretty. We're back 2 days ago. Did I just? I'm gonna have to go back to the grok and figure out. No. Here we go. Body part. See, I need to watch the thing to figure out what body part it is. Hold on. Yeah, it was a leg. It was a leg, and somebody says, after finding a leg floating in the river, police are stumped. somebody said that in the comments. This has over 44K views and 228 comments. And there's just nothing. Not like, was it a child's leg? Was it an adult's leg? Was it a robot leg? And then, people have to say, oh, well, it was probably ice. Or, they'll say all kinds of bullshit, or they'll just joke about it. Yeah, this person said, where's part 2? Yeah, zero follow-up. It's off the news's radar and on to the next thing. And that's it. That's where we are now, where they can find body parts in the river, and they're like, no. Well, that's troubling. Next. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're entering into a world where things are about to be very, very, very much more dangerous. Short of the laws changing, which aren't going to happen, short of DAs, actually holding on to bad guys, not going to happen. Instead, what is happening is Orange Man's at least trying to do something. Because just like 4 years ago, all the district courts and all the cities, all the sanctuary cities are just resisting everything that he's doing. They offer no alternatives except to just pour more money into the homeless and illegal industrial complex. He's trying to open up new places for homeless. He's trying to open up new places for illegals. Which, Sleepy Man had 4 years, and Orange Man is trying to fix an impossible problem using the tools that he has, and I think he can be, narcissistic, and I think he can be really egotistical, and I think it makes things harder for him than they should be. If he would just be like humble and go, hey, this job thing is a real problem, or this illegal thing is a real problem. If sometimes if he would just sit down and be like, federal employees getting stomped into a bloody pulp in DC is a real problem. The carjackings, which have been going up in DC, if he would just say these things are a real problem and nobody's doing anything about it, and the crime stats are lies. I mean, the news would still run interference and go, well, he's saying without evidence that crime is worse. That's what the law says. He's saying this without evidence. And it's like, well, he just talks to normal people. If he just said, look, you're all completely normal people, and I respect your opinion. Do you all feel like crime is going up? And they all say yes. And he's like, okay, your fucking statistics don't matter. Perception's reality. Everybody feels like crime's really bad. They're probably lying about the stats because most of the blue, if not all the blue cities, are in doom loops. And just like, we have a problem here. We're going to deploy the National Guard, which, by the way, 4 years, 8 years, 12 years ago, they should have been immediately doing, Baltimore, like all of them. They should have immediately been deploying the National Guard every single time. I know people, martial law. Oh, the cops are being militarized. Oh, okay, fine, then get the military. Oh, martial law. When is it going to be time? And when you think it is time, do you think the resources are going to exist? And I think deploying the National Guard, federalizing the troops, or federalizing law enforcement, I think those are two perfectly valid steps for just this absolutely just out of control insanity. And people, I've said this before, I've been saying this forever. In the end, when martial law is called into play, and when curfews are called into play, everybody will be begging for it. There just has to be some checks and balances to where it's like, okay, is your guys' subdivision squared away? And they're like, yep, every house is good and accounted for. Or if they say, is your subdivision squared away? And they're like, man, we got 2 houses that are a big fucking problem. And they're like, done and done. And they fucking kick the doors in and do the things that have to happen. And then say, okay, is your subdivision squared away now? And they're like, yeah. And obviously you can't do it just because you don't like Martha's playing her damn music too loud. Martha, why did you say that name? But like, if you're like, no, there's like 20 squatters in that house, we don't know who the fuck they are, and then the door kickers take care of it, and then your subdivision's safe and they go on to the next subdivision. Like, that could work, or it's like, oh, 4 houses down on the left is a bunch of people nobody knows who the fuck they were, and they've made a giant tire fortress of tires and derelict cars, and nobody knows who they are, and they're running drugs out of it, and they're like, okay, drone strike, or whatever, nuke it from orbit. I think a world has to exist where there's consequences for being incompatible with the vast majority of the culture. And you might say that that's dangerous, but I think being left alone, wanting to be left alone, is like one of the 4 pillars of our culture. And people might go, well, there has to be limits to that because someone upstream could dam the river and screw the person downstream. And it's like, yeah, you're right. There has to be some kind of cross-functional, collaboration that happens. You still have to be compatible. That means not routing a river through your neighbor's house, right? Or like dropping a Doug fir on their house because it's Tuesday. There still has to be some collaboration. There has to be some teamwork involved, especially like when a tree is on a property line. And I think, reasonable people are like, their dogs can't run in your yard and just kill all your chickens. Then you have to defend yourself against the dogs. Then they get mad at you because you did something to their dogs. It's like, well, those dogs stopped becoming your dogs when they entered my property and started harming my animals, which is my priority. Your priority should have been keeping your dogs in your yard. Instead, your dog went right through a fence like a bull in a china shop, which happens. Bigger dogs can just go right through a fence. Destroy the fence. Like, if they really want something on the other side, they will knock a fence down. We'll just build it better. I mean, there's big dogs out there. So, I don't want to get back into the dog thing. I think to wrap this up, I just want to say, get your shit ready. Check your drones, check your cameras, check your armor, check your mags. Check all the things. What am I forgetting? Check your binoculars. I need to do that too. And this last segment, so I kind of want to do like two final kind of wrap up segment kind of diddly doos for like the 2 of you that listen this far into the show. So I'm gonna thank all the. I was doing this at the beginning, but when I record these outside, it's not really possible. So I'm gonna do this at the end. And part of the reason why I'm doing this again is YouTube finally fixed the community thing almost all the way. So thank you, Charmaine Montgomery says criminal and does the little purple devilly face. That was in response to my post where the perps are magneting phones to cars to follow them home. Great and Grace says wild in response to that. Thanks, Great and Grace. Yellow, Red, Blue commented to my Be Someone's Hero and said, I love this. Thanks for the energy. You're welcome, Yellow, Red, Blue. Scrappy Dappy Doo says you're supposed to trample snakes. Psalms 91. That's, I don't know if you're trying to be sarcastic or you think it's hilarious to misquote a Bible verse, but no, the Bible does not say to trample snakes. That's fucking retarded. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. You trample snakes. That's I don't like it when people say things like that. I don't think it's funny or cute. The garden snakes we have here keep the bugs down. The Bible doesn't say anything about that. And then Yellow, Red, Blue says, I think that means allegorical serpent, not literally killing garden animals. So that was a nicer way of saying it. Laura Servi 495 says, this is in response to the whole pit bull story. Keep a hot dog with you. Pepper spray is useful, but the hot dog may buy you enough time to run if the dog's pain tolerance is high. Fun fact, hot dog means about 20 different things. So that was kind of a funny rabbit hole. My wife and I were talking about keeping dog treats with us, but I have seen dogs bite the legs of people where the dog treats are in or were in, and that kind of freaks me out. I thought maybe hot dog was a metaphor for a gun. I think I've heard people call guns hot dogs. But also when it's really hot out, I don't know if you'd want to keep a hot dog with you. And if the dog just inhales the hot dog, and then you've kind of got a problem. Or if the dog chokes on the hot dog. The other part of that though, the dog's pain tolerance being high, I'm I'm actually kind of concerned that if the dog decides that it's go time, because I already know that bear spray is not actually that potent. Human no spray is way more potent. I have worried about that, and I'd be interested. Leave a comment down below. JK, LOL. Only 2 people are here right now. If you've ever had to pepper spray a dog, if a really really pissed off big dog, if that actually works. I think it only works for bears, because bears aren't really that frothingly pissed. Usually, they're usually just dumbing around. And I think bear spray, I think it scares them more than anything, because they have that trigger response to, oh no, I'm being sprayed by something. That's not good. And it has been my experience in the past that dogs will shove their nose right up a skunk's ass. Because dogs are fucking also retarded. Whereas cats, if they even hear the smallest, air release, or even one teeny tiny squirt from a squirt bottle, they're gone. Whereas you squirt a dog with a water bottle and they're like, oh boy, more. Anyway. But yeah, Laura Survey, that was interesting. It was a simple thing that you said, but it actually gave me a lot to think about. Holly Evans says, be safe. People are asshole dog owners. They really are. Yeah. Holly also says, they have an overactive blue nose pit king corso, has been trained, still an asshole. I walk late at night, saved me from coyotes a few nights ago. He got lucky, was on a metal leash and was a good boy. People need to be in control of the dogs. Dogs versus coyotes is so scary. A lot of dogs are so dumb as shit, that they don't know how to deal with coyotes. The coyotes will act hurt. The dog will think, oh no, another dog is hurt, and then they'll walk into an ambush and just get eaten alive, which is terrible. Or the dog will lock up one of the dogs and then still get eaten by the rest of the dogs. And again, dog fighting, terrible. However, dogs should be able to defend self from other dogs when dogs are bad. And pack fighting is like, oh man, pack defense. It's rough. I think if you're going on a walk and you have a dog and you're in Coyoteville, I think having a pistol with a flashlight on it, and then training your dog what it's like to be around the bang bangs so it can handle itself. I know they hurt dogs' ears, but you could have, subsonic rounds or something. They don't need to be, for coyotes, they don't need to be like crazy hot rounds. Yeah. Some kind of a flashlight on your weapon light. If you have pepper spray, they make pepper spray with flashlights. If you have like some kind of a burner pepper ball blaster, get a flashlight on it. That way one hand can be holding the dog leash, keeping the dog right like connected to you. So it can be watching one side while you address the other side, and you can start whittling those coyotes down. It's going to want to chase, but you don't want it to chase. You want it to be hugging you. So they don't knock you down. And you also want it to not knock you down. And then you can start to whittle them down and figure something out. That's also why you need, 17, 21 rounds. Hugging coyotes. James and Scrappy were asking on my channel what Marf is doing. So that's something that happened. Rural said, thanks for having me on their show. That was a blast, Rural. I appreciate you guys. I hope we can make something happen again. I love being on other people's podcasts. I think it's good for me. I think it's a good exercise. I like rambling to myself, but I like other people's questions too. It gets me thinking. CDK says it was a busy week. Yes, it was. Negative Death Space says the crows have learned how to do electrical. That was in regards to them taking the electrical tape and the branches. I want to say I tried to electrical tape another branch. It didn't work. I think the wind gusts. I think electrical tape is like really strong, but like if the birds or whatever just goes through like too much of the branches don't seem to heal very fast. And I maybe naively was trying to give the buds, the little elbows, some breathing room, but that's also right where the birds try to chew through them, and so maybe that, I don't know, or maybe the sun just degrades. I don't know. And then Cha-Cha thought that was interesting. Birio says his wagon's been circled for a while. Would never go to a concert mall theater. Yeah, or a Walmart. Yeah. It's funny. I was gonna bring that up again. Man, these cities. Oh, festival this, festival that. Bike ride this, bike ride that. Man, it is the illusion of safety. You are not fucking safe. Statistically, maybe, because, someone else might get hurt instead of you, but that could just be the other way around. Cha-Cha says hi again. And Rural said, thank you for putting the videos together. And Cucumber Farmer says, today in Michiganistan at Walmart, there's a mass stabbing, 11 people stabbed. They got the alleged person who did that. Yeah, stabbings have gone way up. They're super underreported. They're off the news cycle so fast. Guerrilla finally noticed the lawnmower graphics that I did for episode 102. I did those for him. Those were inspired by him. Love and Life says good words, thumbs up. Appreciate you, Love and Life. Love and Life was also on 0 Hour Podcast last night. It was a banger show. And then Barrio and I were talking about AI, and we'll talk about AI more next episode. I think that's kind of caught up with the chat. Yeah. And so lastly but not leastly, on the book, on my own personal projects front, oh, you know what? What's so weird, side note, the comments aren't completely working still, because on my Pitbull post, I want to give this the proper, where did it go? On my Pitbull post, for some reason, I have to sort, even though I approved the post, I have to sort by new, even though I responded to the damn post. I approved it and I responded to it, and it's still hiding my own post. Well, a post that I responded to anyway. FS says, if you square off with my pity, you better be prepared for a very strong licking. She has 60 pounds of tongue. And so I think I addressed that this episode, but I will again. I have met pit bulls that are just the sweetest dogs on the planet. I have met pit bulls that are the most distrusting psycho dogs on the planet. I've met some that kind of don't know about you, and they can, and then it seems like they're kind of showing restraint and kind of getting themselves worked up, and then I see some that get worked up a lot, and then once you're there, they don't know what to do, and then they fall asleep on you later. My friend has one. It'll tear down the walls trying to get at you. It will, as soon as the door opens, it will lunge, full body jumping in the air at you to where he has to hold the collar back. This thing his pit is the size of a damn bear. And then once it calms down for a few seconds, then it just wants to lay on you and go to sleep. And it's just like, Jesus, dude, this thing. I love that dog to death, but like every time I'm like, is this the time? Is this the time where the dog just decides to kill me? And then my other neighbor over there had a pit bull too, and it would just, sometimes it would just decide to not let anyone go even anywhere near the sidewalk. And you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to get my mail today. Just super standoffish, and there's no reason. There's no reason for pit bulls to be as standoffish as they are. They are way over equipped to basically be able to handle anything. They're massive. And they still have to act like a yellow jacket, or a wasp or something. Like, I'm in your face, I'm in your face. I'm like, I know you're in my face. Get out the fuck out of my face. I went outside to go look for a frog earlier because there was a frog on the porch. Long story. And I went to go look for the frog. There was like 7 wasps in my face. I'm in your face, I'm in your face. I'm like, I know, I almost swallowed you. Get out of my face. And it's like, I get wasps doing that. I mean, they're attracted to the CO2, and plus they're bullies. You know, there's no reason for pit bulls to act like that. They are massive. They are forces of nature. They don't need to act that way. But they are so damn aggressive, and they don't need to be. But they are. And that is because some piece of shit at some point keeps breeding that bad trait into them over and over and over again. And it is unnecessary. The only way for that to get fixed is to people to stop shit breeding pits and breed nice, dare I say, like, conservative, moderate pit bulls again. They don't need to be fucking psycho dogs. They don't need to be. They're huge. They can kill a child or even a teen easily. They don't need to be psychos. Or if they just need to act like psychos, but not bite your face off. Like, but the ones that just want to be standoffish, and it's like, you want to fight? I don't have the time, effort, or energy to fight a pit bull. I just don't. And that is insane to expect. Just like I'm not going to fight a bunch of ferals, incompatible people with this country. I'm not going to fight you. I'm not going somewhere that's so anti-2A to where I have to deal with that. What happened to Doge guy was completely avoidable. He didn't need to get stomped into a bloody pulp. That was avoidable. That's what the Second Amendment's for. You don't need to deploy the National Guard. You deploy the Second Amendment, and it will work itself out. I don't need to fight pit bulls. The Second Amendment exists. If your pit bull is a lovey-dovey, hug, cuddle monster, then it has nothing to worry about. If it wants to square off, then, and it doesn't let me, retreat, then unfortunately there's like a long line of things that are going to have to happen, which is very tragic. But when you breed a death ball to be a bastard like this, I don't know how you come back from that. There has to be consequences. There has to be corrective actions. And this country does not want to have corrective actions. It wants to have its illegals. It wants to be up to its balls in illegals. It wants to be up to its balls in homeless. And then you get all the vantards bitching about it. Fuck off. Okay? Like, this is America, and you want to be able to park anywhere. Like, I get it. But there's bad actors. And there's no way to reconcile that right now. How about the vantards all put forth some kind of way of dealing with this? Same thing with the bicycle fuckers. Why don't the bicycle people all come up with and agree upon a way bicycle people should act? I had to go in the office the other day, and all of the bicycle people were behaving themselves, which is good, because I don't want to hit them any more than they want to hit me, usually. I have been hit by bicyclists before. He deliberately ran into our car and started shouting at us. We've also been hit by mopeds in the past. Anyway, long story. We'll get into it another time. This person on an e-bike went right through a red light, and even the other people on bicycles that were doing their morning commute were like, "That's fucked up." But here's the thing: if we don't agree as a society to follow a set of rules, you know, I can't count on those, bicycle people to help me, if something was to pop off. They're all going to get the fuck out of there as fast as they can, so they don't get bogged down, so they can get to work, so they don't get associated. So it's everyone for themselves out there, and we have to come back together as a society and agree on how to conduct ourselves. That means dog owners should be able to call out dog situations, and ethnicities should be able to call out their bad actors, and cultures and religions, and everybody should, like bike riders, like bicyclists should be able to come out and say, there doesn't need to be nude bike rides. Okay, there doesn't. There's no practical reason for there to be nude bike rides. Don't Google that shit. You'll see a lot of things you don't want to see. There's no reason for that. It's fucking unnecessary to have nude bike rides. And shut the city down so everyone can ride their bicycles naked. That is fucking stupid. If we can't agree on just some really, really, really basic generic things in society, then the corrections get exponentially worse. Or not worse, more severe, more perceived to be extreme. Even though they're reactions to something that's already extreme. In which case, it is what it is. And so, unfortunately, the other side tries to use that same argument, even though they're the ones that are ratcheting everything up, but then they gaslight everybody, and then they attack the reactions, even though they're the ones that caused it. It's how cause and effect works. Anyway, I'm rambling. This is going to be a long one, but for the 2 or 3 of you that stick around, I appreciate you. I know some people still like long-form content, and I know this one was a long time coming, so I hope I bundled up everything nice for y'all, and appreciate y'all. And oh yeah, my art book will be out. That's what I meant to say. My art book will be out very soon. I'm just waiting to hear back from the artist if they like it or not. Maybe I'll order another copy. And I'm working on an update to the bunker basics, but it's still like a month or 2 out. I just want to keep releasing one, like maybe every quarter or something like that. So I'm hoping for more feedback. If you read Bunker Basics, please leave me a review. I still only have 2 reviews. That really, really hurts my chances of this book ever actually getting algorithm traction. Please leave a review for Bunker Basics. Please, please, please. And that's it. And I appreciate y'all. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.